and gentlemen, welcome to Rebels and Flux. My name is Chris Netto. This is the show that we dig down deep and find out who these rebels are in the flux that we like to call AV, or at least the ever-changing world of AV. And today I'm honored to actually have an international celebrity here with us. Joining us is Mr. Jarrod Hillman from Hillman AV. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
You're a little nervous. This is like your first podcast? Tell me this is not your first podcast, ever.
It's my first featured podcast. It is, yeah.
Wow. All right. So we're going to not take it easy on you. Contrary to popular belief, we're going to dig right in and go into some questions. So first, let's start off by knowing a little bit about what Hillman AV is and what they do and where you guys are located, because that's what makes it an international show.
Sure. So we're based in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, which is the almost the center of Canada, I would say, geographically. And Hillman AudioVideo is a commercial audiovisual integrator at its core. And that's, I know I'm speaking to a lot of people in the AV industry, so I'm not going to say much more on that because we're an audiovisual integrator. So
we'll leave it up to our imagination.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What is it that you guys focus particularly on? Do you have a particular vertical in your space that you guys are proficient in, or something that you should see has been like a repetitive, this has been our thing? So throughout our history and our growth, we have done a ton of restaurants, sports bars. That's what we were built on. That's where we came in. And those are our largest clients right now. And we do those across Canada. That's funny because, as you know, I spend a lot of time talking online and stuff like that. And every time I get into that hospitality segment, it's a weird mix, right? At least here in the US, when I've brought it up in conversation here, on at least where I am on the East Coast, the conversation will quickly go to, yes, hospitality, bars, restaurants, that would be a cool sector, but it really gets into the guy, the quote unquote truck in the truck will come in, underbid the project, go to, XYZ big box store, pick up some monitors and convince them that you don't need to do this, you need to do that. And here's a cost-effective solution, slams the trunk and takes off. How do you guys, how did that happen?
So kind of what I was alluding to before about how Hillman started. One of the first projects I had was I was actually contracted as a freelancer to do a couple restaurant chains that were going up in my area. And I started out doing that, and then the corporate office of that restaurant chain had left that AV integrator that hired me and went to another one. And then that integrator called me. They'd heard I'd done a couple already and said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing a couple more? Would you travel?" And so I said, "Yeah, of course." So, I was freelancing at the time.
Yep.
So I was kind of just taking anything that came my way. And then from there, I did a couple for them. And then that corporate chain again, as you said, restaurants are a tricky business. So they moved on to another integrator. I couldn't work with that integrator at the time. And then that integrator did one store. And then the corporate office actually came back to me and said, "Hey, you've done a handful of these already, and we've got big expansion plans. Do you want to do this for us and start?" Because at that time I was just doing the work. I wasn't supplying anything. Mm-hmm. And so I said, "Yeah, I could probably do this. I know what you guys need." And so that chain really blew us up. We did probably close to 60 stores in 2 years for them across Canada. And then through a referral, we kind of picked up a few more chains. And I think what keeps us in the game, because you're right, the ease of access into that vertical is so low. Mm-hmm. But what keeps us in the game is probably that we do it anywhere in Canada for this client. So we bring them a lot of consistency, and then we service them after the fact. So we've kind of become that one call to any store level service.
Yeah, that is important, super important. The consistency, and scalability of what services you're delivering from an integrator standpoint, from my side on the distribution side, even for consulting services. You gotta be able to scale, and you gotta be able to deliver it. And that's an amazing story of how you guys basically put it together and built it based off of the one customer. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
And it's what's obvious to me is you found success doing that, but you've also diversified your game.
Sure.
You're not just a hospitality bar and nightclub company anymore. You've gone out and you've gotten into the corporate side. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is it as easy to replicate, or is it boring? I spent all my time on corporate side, man. There's only so many, 90-inch screens and a projector and a input at the conference room table that a person can do.
Yeah, what's nice about corporate is the hours.
Yeah.
Because if a boardroom or a meeting room goes down for a day, well, you don't have 300 eating people to work around, or to start at 2 a.m. and service a system, because they can't close. With I think the challenge with restaurants and hospitality is time is money. Right. And so if their store's not open, if their system's not running, they're losing money by the second, and it's tight margins. And so because we've accommodated that, I think we're successful there. Corporate we like because it's your 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. There's nothing really pressing about it. If we do one of the major sports bars in Western Canada, if their system goes down and there's a fight that night, or there's a game that night, they can't have it go down. So I think because of our response, that makes it a bit of a challenge. But, in corporate, it's a little bit of an easier ride. It's a little bit slower. It's a little bit smoother.
It's funny you say that, because when we say mission critical, the first thing you think about is, there's a knock, where the displays can't be down because, it's a network operations center, or there's a boardroom with, it can't be down. Lately in the corporate world, marketing has actually taken a voice and become a 24/7 operation, meaning if you walk into a lobby and that messaging is not there, and that display or big display or video wall is down, it has now become mission critical, especially when the CEO who just dropped all that cash walks by it. It's amazing to hear that even a sporting event can be mission critical, and it's a matter of perspective in this case.
It is, yeah. Well, they say that water is only as deep as you are tall, right? So I think because restaurants, they live in such tight margins, and they got to take advantage of everything that they can to win their audience, and get that money. So whereas digital signage goes down, someone's just going to take a lashing from the CEO.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's very, very interesting stuff, man. I never got into a good conversation regarding the hospitality and the bar and sports bar industry, because most of the time it got derailed with, you're not going to find anything there because somebody's going to go ahead and just hire, Uncle Vito to show up with 2 TVs and a sound system from the big box store.
Yeah.
That those things do exist. There are professional companies out there doing this.
Of course.
I can hear that. At least I know one that's doing it and doing it right. Well, maybe 2. There's a guy out in the West Coast that I know that has done it very, very well. So you started in that world of the hospitality side, you've moved into corporate.
Yeah.
What is the natural progression for Hillman? Like, any integrator listening to this is going to go, we may have started as, XYZ vertical, and then we started to get into corporate. You hear that a lot, especially on the resi side. The resi guys that have gone into semi-commercial and have done light commercial work, now moving to heavier commercial stuff. What is the natural progression for a company like Hillman?
I hate to sound cliche, but
you're gonna be cliche, right?
I'm about to. Our progression, it's not even what industry are we looking at, what market are we looking at. It's actually how can we enhance the customer experience. We're extremely down to earth when we talk about how commoditized our industry is. And you look at where we're from, we're in a city of 200,000 people, and we're the capital. We're in a province the size, I'm sure California must fit in our province 3 times, and we only have 1 million people in our province. We come from a very low population area, and, there's a number of AV integrators here, that can do what we do. It's just that there's not many that can do it how we do it. And so our natural progression is our internal team building. It's really identifying the process we can take customers through, regardless of what project it is. And so we don't spend a lot of time focusing on what market we're in. We do specialize in a few, but we have really smart people working for us. And I'll tell you, a lot of the projects and a lot of the work we get, it's just because we're hard workers and we're diligent and we're thorough in what we're doing, or at least we try to be as much as we can be. And so, to be honest, over the last 8 years that we've been around, we have done everything from restaurants to boardrooms. We've done, a chain of interactive cafes through the US. We've done museums, we've done stadiums, we've done massive video walls where we were just contracted for our labor. And it's just because of our ethic and our, just the relationships that we create, So
yes. Well, you kind of gave away your secret as soon as you opened your mouth, because I noticed the minute you said, hey, we're in this business and this is what we do, your business is service. Your business is not what you do. I mean, you may be great at soldering. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. I'm happy you are. But if your business is service, your natural progression will stay wherever that service, especially with you leading the company. If your mindset is set on service and how you're delivering product, not the product itself, then that's right. Kind of think that you just spilled the beans. So everybody, now you know his business plan.
Now you know our secrets. Yeah. I mean, well, that's awesome. And a good example of that, Chris, to be honest, is we, I'm going to spill another bit of a secret here with restaurants. Is the two keys to something as fragile as restaurant and hospitality is we work to expand what we can provide them. So we do more than just TVs and speakers for these guys. We do upwards of 5 systems for them. And that includes everything from card access and surveillance to the networking and the Wi-Fi. And so you think about when we start working with partners, if we can start poaching, if you will, or providing 4 to 5 different low voltage systems, well, we've just knocked out.
Yeah. That's interesting, because a lot of companies will stay in their lane, right?
They do.
We know what we're good at and we're kind of comfortable with what we do. We're not going to go there because I've seen it, right? I'm in a saturated market here in the Northeast where companies have tried to go out and deliver this and it goes horribly wrong. And not only did you just now not get that security piece, but you've now cost yourself that customer in general and any goodwill that was going to come out of that. So what you're doing is right, is if you're taking that steady, slow, steady business approach where you guys are knowing what you're doing and you're bringing in the qualified people and then going after that incrementally, as opposed to, hey, we're doing everything and anything you want. What do you want? What do you want? We got popcorn. We do movie theaters. We do whatever. Yeah. And it can get nuts, man. And that progression is key, man. That's a great point.
And don't get me wrong, we've had some expensive learning lessons.
Lessons learned. Hey man, if you can't learn from where you went wrong, then it's not learning, man. You gotta scuff your knee a lot of times. So I love the fact that you gave me a really good feel of what Hillman is, the markets and how you approach that. You answered one of the toughest questions in AV, which to me is, when how do you break into that market? It's tough, but your story shows and proves that it can be done and you can do it profitably as opposed to being, just a one-hit wonder per se per install.
That's right.
But let's now take this back a little bit, because the first time I met you was after in person, because we've known each other online from doing some stuff. But the first time I met you was after a Drunk Uncle's concert in Vegas. And it was like, hey, it was like that Spider-Man meme. Hey, I know you. Right. So, which is great. But now it's time to get personal and find out some questions that I have for you. So get ready, because this is what it's all about. And this is what the people stick around to the end to listen to, because we're going to continue this conversation because there's a lot more interesting stuff. All right. First question off the charts here. Who is a bigger national icon or national treasure to you? Bryan Adams or Celine Dion?
Oh. I could care less for both, but if I were forced to pick, if that was the only two on the playlist, I'd pick Bryan Adams.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you. Next, who was your favorite character on Degrassi? For those that don't know, Degrassi is a very Canadian show.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always liked what Joey and Snake had going on. They always seemed to be they were always up to something. And
was it mandatory viewing when you were young? Like was that like the only thing on that, and how to make maple syrup? Or
yeah, that was our social studies class. Was just episodes of Degrassi.
It was the after school. It's the Canadian after school specials. Those are awesome. Yeah. Awesome. When was the last time you called somebody a hoser?
I bet you it was at Infocom, and I was doing it to be Canadian.
No, you had to put on a maple leaf hat and call somebody a hoser on purpose.
I had to. Yeah, it was deliberate cultural appropriation on myself. So
you didn't call that to Brock McGinnis, did you?
No, but I mean, there's probably a few coming his way. Yeah.
All right. Last question regarding with the Canadian thing. Name your favorite Nickelback song.
Oh man. I mean, you know what I love about Nickelback? I'm gonna say How You Remind Me, because that's what kicked them off, right? That's what put them on the map. And you just have to love how hated one of the top selling international bands of history is. It's got to be the most ironic thing.
If I didn't ask you a Nickelback song, I would do no justice. And the best part is, I was going to say who would win in a fight between Nickelback and Bare Naked Ladies, but I wanted to get your Nickelback favorite song out first to at least acknowledge that you have acknowledged this band as being from Hanna, Alberta, Canada.
Hanna, Alberta. Yeah, it's close to where I actually grew up. So yeah. No
way. And final question: you are not good at what? The one thing that you admit that you are not good at.
Oof. Something I am not good at. I think my hardest. This is something I experience as an owner and having staff. Is sometimes I really have a difficult time when I'm not good at understanding negative people. How's that? Yeah, that's probably one of my biggest challenges is when I see someone really hating a job, or they feel like there's no way out. It's hard for me to like empathize with them and go like, man, like, I don't understand why you're so down about this. Like you're doing good. I don't understand it. I think that's maybe a bit of a more complex answer than you were hoping for.
No. That I was expecting you don't like to skate or play hockey, but hey, if you don't understand negative people, that's cool too, man. Don't make or take many trips to New York. That's you'll hate taxis, dude. I'm just saying that you won't get there on time. As a matter of fact, you may not even get to the airport at the scheduled time. But anyway, thank you. No, that's an interesting question, because negative people, you're right. Empathy is a big skill. Like, you try to learn how to empathize with people, but when somebody is such a Debbie Downer, for you, Saturday Night Live fans, when you are a Debbie Downer and you have to take yourself out of being who you are and put yourself in their shoes, it is tough, man. It's hard to understand where a negative person's getting the negativity.
Yeah.
And sometimes that stuff is deep rooted, man. I've known people that will hold that grudge,
Well, and I'm good at empathizing with people. Like, I can relate to people, but yeah, it's just that negativity when they're beyond my reach. I'm just like, oh man, like, stop being a little,
I'm with you. My own little story is that, I've had a chip on my shoulder. A couple years ago, I was talking to a company and they were interested in bringing me on. And the conversation kept coming back about You know, you're not a marketer. You don't have a degree. You don't have an MBA. Like, you know, they were coming to me asking me to possibly take on a marketing position, but I don't have a marketing degree. I have a degree in communications.
Yeah.
And no matter where I went with this conversation, it kept going back to the degree and not being a marketer. So, you know, it's funny because, you know, fast forward a couple of years, here I am now doing what I do, and it's, you know, market development. It's not necessarily marketing, but, you know, that chip pushed me to dig deeper and find out what it is that, you know, almost that fortitude, the internal fortitude that you need to push yourself to find out what it is that you don't know or what other people see. So sometimes that negativity can help, man.
I'm the same way. I have that chip on my shoulder too about owning a business. You know, I a lot of days I think I have no business owning a business because, you know, I don't have a degree. I didn't go to post-secondary. I probably barely graduated high school. And, you know, the way we just started organically, but that chip and that prove 'em wrong attitude is what drives me to, you know, read more, watch more. I mentor a lot with other people and watch what they do. And, you know, I'm fairly humble in the sense that
you know where you came from.
I always believe I'm the dumbest person in a room too, right? So even, you know, you take AV and the AM, for example, I'm just reading those conversations and I'm like, man, I'm just a moron compared to these guys. Like, okay, I'm just going to read what these guys are saying and be like, oh, okay, I get it. Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the internet, man. Don't believe everything that, no. I mean, I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, you know, don't believe everything you see on the internet. It's great.
And he was referring to Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He definitely was.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Jarrod, thank you so much. I want to continue this conversation, so I think we're going to do another episode with you. But in the meantime, let's get some information back to the people. Let's tell us where we can find out more about Hillman AV. Yeah,
so we are on the interwebs. We just got that here in Canada, the internet, and so we've launched a website. It's www.hillmanav.com, and you can find me on Twitter at AVpreneur. So that's where you'll find us.
Awesome. I'm glad that AOL .com address is working well for you and your email.
Yeah.
And that MySpace account eventually will
I mean, Tom and I think Tom just moved to Canada for MySpace there. So, you know,
he's been in hiding in Canada. You never know.
That's right.
That's where he went.
Yeah. He was my first friend. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you, sir, for coming on and sharing a little bit about you and what your company does and the very unique niche of restaurants and bars, which for many people here on this side of the southern side of you think that is, you know, something different. You've made a living off of it. Kudos to you.
Yeah.
Kudos to your team. And if you don't know Jarrod, get to know him either through the interwebs on the Twitters and stuff like that. All kidding aside, the dude knows his stuff. He is somebody who you can find hanging out, doing some stuff with Infocom. We'll get into that in the next episode. But my name is Chris Netto. This is Rebels in Flux. You can see us here on the YouTubes, or you can check out Starin.com. Starin.biz. Starin.biz is the website for the company that I work for, and Starin.biz is the sponsor of this show. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Rebels in Flux.